Hanover Park residents in Cape Town say they are living in fear as gang violence has reached alarming levels, with gangsters no longer having any regard for women and children. The latest incident occurred on Wednesday afternoon when 8 people were shot. 6 of the victims were passengers in a taxi traveling to Hanover Park.
What we know about the incident, it was like Hanover Park having this gang war. And the gangsters was appearing in Eklund Court that minute. And while they were driving into this taxi, the gunman was waiting for them at this robot between Belgravia and Turfel Road. And the shooting happened there. But what upsets us the most of Hanover, the community of Hanover Park, why did they shoot the woman who was the driver? Didn't they see that that was a woman who drive the taxi? Because why? Shooting women is unacceptable. Because in the gangster operation, gangsters don't shoot women, but today we see that gangsters shooting women and children, and they feel no remorse by killing women and children, and we're not happy with that. Because Hanover Park living in fear. This is school holidays. Our children can't play outside in Hanover Park. If you drive through Hanover Park now at this moment, the people don't want their children not even going to the shop. The people can't even go shopping because there's this type of a fear. Shooting is going to happen randomly in Hanover Park.
Hanover Park Community Policing Forum Secretary Yasin Johar says parents fear for the safety of their children in the area.
I would say there isn't a real decrease. It has just continued. Here and there you had pauses of shooting that stopped, but it will then just carry on again. You know, and especially where the schooling is concerned, where learners go to school in the morning, you know, like as you mentioned, from the first day of school. We've seen shooting happen just before school starts, just before 8 a.m. There isn't any consideration for, okay, the children is going to school, we're going to wait. Those times actually used in order to do the shootings, you know. So, yes, our parents, they live in fear because sending my child to school is supposed to be a normal thing, you know. My child goes to school, I send them in the morning, they leave the house, they should get at school. But today the parent is concerned, when my child walks out the door, are they going to reach the school? Because, you know, the amount of shootings happening, and when that shootings happen at that moment of time, I can imagine the trauma that parent is going through when they send the child to school.
Western Cape MSc for Community Safety and Police Oversight, Reagen Allen, joins me now to discuss the situation in Hanover Park. Afternoon, MSc. Thanks very much for your time. From what you've seen and heard, how would you describe the situation in Hanover Park?
Thank you for bringing us into this very difficult conversation. It's one that, as a Western Cape government, we will never shy away from, considering that the attempted murder cases that we have seen in Hanover Park and that were just referenced in the previous insert represents pure evil. It represents where gang members have become so brazen in their attempts to take life. I have engaged the South African Police Service in this regard because as a province we would have oversight over the South African Police Service and not direct management. But I'm always wanting that our oversight must lead to better service delivery. On another aspect, as a Western Cape government, Hanover Park since 2019 was already one of our identified priority areas where we have also bolstered additional boots on the ground in the form of our LEAP program. And they have a base within the Hanover Park area as well to ensure that there's extra visibility but that we can curb these gang-related activities. I'm heartbroken when I listen to inserts and when I've even engaged communities in Hanover Park and the CPF, because we are seeing that when there is intra-gang violence, when a gang within one particular segment is having internal fights, but also where there's inter-gang violence between different gang members, we are wanting to ensure that the anti-gang unit, together with the South African Police Service, can actually fulfill their mandate, which is to prevent, to combat and to investigate crime. We need to ensure that these perpetrators are actually brought to book so that they can rot in jail, essentially.
Is the problem gang members? Is that the only source of the problem in Hanover Park?
So sorry, you cut off during that particular question.
Are gangsters the only source of the problem in Hanover Park?
When we look at Hanover Park specifically and with regards to the causative factors, it will range between gang-related incidences, which is our highest contributor in terms of murders in Hanover Park, but also interpersonal violence and arguments in Hanover Park specifically. But what we have seen in terms of investigations, we are wanting to ensure that the South African Police Service actually institute all investigations in terms of the Prevention of Organised Crime Activities Act. What that piece of legislation ultimately means is that various gang members can be grouped together because there is some that may not be the shooters, but they are aiding and abetting those persons in order to commit these heinous crimes. So we are wanting to dismantle gangsterism in that particular way. And as a Western Cape government, we work with stakeholders like the CPF, like neighborhood watchers, and various departments to ensure that we don't have a conveyor belt of young people into a life of gangsterism and crime. Hence, social development, the Department of Education, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport all play a vital role to ensure that we can place opportunities and programs and interventions that can help and assist. But that's why when we call for the devolution of policing powers, currently we are seeing that all resources and allocations and policy flows from national. We are saying here in our province we have specific needs, we have specific priorities. We are wanting to ensure that we can actually have the executive authority over the South African Police Service in our province so that we can ultimately ensure that we place officers where the need is the most. And where we have seen our lead officers are placed, it's based on data, it's based on evidence. We cannot do policing the same way and expect different results. Hence, the province have been consistent in our call for a new policing model that will essentially see that the South African Police Service is not merely a national competency, but we can have concurrent powers like we have in education, like we have in healthcare. And when we look at that particular metrics, the Western Cape government outperforms each and every other department in terms of education, in terms of our healthcare services that we render, and we are wanting to bring those solutions in the policing space as well.
But what hope is there, for the plans and initiatives that you are talking about, considering the fact that, a few years ago, the army was deployed, in the area, and from where as far as many people are concerned, that achieved nothing.
Thank you for the way that that question has been phrased. I think it's vital for me to highlight the following, that when Alan Winde, as the Premier, made a commitment to ensure that we can table a Western Cape safety plan, we can actually add additional boots on the ground. And you will remember in 2019, national government even wanted to take the Western Cape government to court because we were bold enough to say that we are going to place over 1,000 additional boots on the ground. They wanted to take us to court because as a province we don't have that direct law enforcement component. But we still went ahead because we knew that there's a need and that as a government we are needing to step in. I can confirm, and this is not merely me saying it, it's an independent study by the Institute for Security Studies, which indicated in their research that between 2019 and the end of last year, between the 4 priority provinces of Gauteng, Western Cape, Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape was actually the only province that saw a reduction in the murder rate over that particular period of time. In Gauteng and in KZN, there was actually a double-digit increase in the murder rate across Gauteng and across KZN. So yes, we are not where we want to be. We are making inroads. There is a reduction per capita in the murder rate. But we know we have a very, very long way to go, and we are consistent in our efforts that we are wanting to have these difficult conversations. We are wanting to ensure our police oversight can lead to better service delivery, like I've always indicated to departmental officials that is working in the Western Cape government, but also in my engagement with the South African Police Service, because if there's a vacuum in terms of crime intelligence, if there's a vacuum in terms of the amount of resources that we require in an area like Hanover Park, it's a matter that rests squarely at the national level. However, we are wanting to step in. We are wanting to take that responsibility by ensuring that we can have officers, we can have detectives that can actually investigate these crimes and bring these perpetrators to book, and not sit with a caseload of over 300 dockets per detective. It becomes humanly impossible to investigate crime when they are sitting with that high caseload. But also when we are looking at the entire SAPS establishment, we are wanting to ensure that our policing needs and priorities are actually taken into account. It will be remiss of me also not to highlight the following. The Constitution of our country affords a provincial government in terms of the legislation to forward policing needs and priorities to national government. We do it in our province on a yearly basis. We consult with each and every CPF. We consult with neighborhood watches and with other municipalities. We table that policing needs and priorities, but it's hardly taken into account. Hence, we are saying, give the province the opportunity to have policing powers. There is a mechanism in terms of the Constitution, in terms of the national policy. Certain functions in terms of the Constitution can be allocated to a provincial executive in order to have that responsibility. That is what we are asking for, because consistently we are doing policing the same way, over and over, expecting different results. And listeners and viewers will know what that essentially means. It means that we are displaying insanity if we are doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Here we are saying, give the province an opportunity. We have shown that we are capable, and that we will then be able to ensure that we can dismantle these elements and these gangsters that is tormenting our communities. I'm from an area called Mitchell's Plain, and I've seen that personally as well.
Yeah, but have you been clear, or as clear, about what it is that you want to achieve through your plan? And in other words, you haven't muddied the waters in how you bring about your demands or whatever it is that you want assistance from from the national government. I'm saying, in other words, have you not, in how you count what you want to do, have you not played into the hands of those people who accuse you of, secessionist tendencies? In other words, this is all about you wanting more power and more power, because, as some people have alleged, all you want to do is build a little republic in the Western Cape. In other words, the optics of it. This is what I'm talking about.
I highly appreciate this question. I've not heard someone ask this question as clearly as you have. So thank you, because I think it's two particular arguments. As a Western Cape government, we have been firm that we are not wanting to separate from South Africa. We are not wanting to go that route. We believe in South Africa. We believe that the Western Cape contributes to South Africa. When we look at in the Western Cape, we have now seen that 65% of all jobs created across the previous financial year was actually created in the Western Cape. So we are contributing towards South Africa. We are not wanting to secede from South Africa. There's a different component. And that is where we can actually, in terms of the Constitution, have more powers so that we can take that responsibility. And I think in the media, in many communities, but also coming from national government, they have conflated those two aspects. It's not that we are wanting to create a Western Cape that is on its own. We are saying, give us the powers that is afforded within the Constitution, not to break away from South Africa. South Africa is alive with opportunities. It's the dream of 1994 that many people crave for, but I think it's two arguments that have been conflated, and that has caused a rift. And I think I can be very clear from my side. When I looked at engaging the South African Police Service, engaging national government, I've always made it clear that yes, I represent the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape, there has been a number of narratives consistently spewed. I am wanting to be as clear as possible. The Premier is wanting to be as clear as possible, but we are not wanting to secede from South Africa. We will want to always be part of South Africa. That's why we are currently on a rescue mission to make sure that we can actually break the hold of the national government that we have seen consistently underperforming, and we have seen rampant corruption. We are now sitting with a speaker that is facing grave charges at the national level in terms of corruption. So we are wanting to ensure that departments in the Western Cape, and each and every department in the Western Cape received a clean audit once again. So we are wanting to ensure that we can take that value, bring it into the space of South Africa, but it's two arguments that have been conflated due to politics. And I'm wanting to eliminate that politics by this particular answer. But thank you for asking it so clearly.
Reagen Allen, thank you very much for your time. He is the MSc of Community Safety and Police Oversight in the Western Cape.